Hey, all you junior Ghostbusters. So for those of you who weren't aware, I just finished the part 2 of the Carl Killian Ghostbusters The Board Game 2 Yeti tier unboxing, just sort of covering some ground that I did not in the last the part 1 of the video series, and also explaining my feelings on Cryptozoa, complicated though they may be. You can check out that video, I'm sure, on my YouTube page, but we shall continue with the unboxing, which, since that is the main event you are here for. So, moving on, let us get back to the box. Last time, we went over the various cards that were in the game. We were on the first layer of minis, which you can see here. It's a bit more difficult because there's some reflection from the various lighting sources I have around the camera. But we're going on to layer 2. Exciting times, guys. So, while I'm lifting layer 1 out, I gotta say again, I really appreciate the fact that Cryptozoic added these protective covers to the pieces, because that helps prevent it from getting further damaged. So, taking off layer 1, it seems to be, there's a little bit of tape on the side that's affixing the two layers. Let's see if I can remove it without doing much damage. I don't think it's bending or anything, it's just I'd like to keep this tape for security purposes. So we got layer 2. Looks like there's 2 pieces of tape. Apologies. Just taking those off. So layer 2 does not have a protective cover, but it looks like that layer 1 was meant as a protective cover. But you can see a lot of the more pieces here, especially the oversized pieces. You've got the Statue of Liberty vehicle head that players can go into. Vigo, I will not make the Ghostbusters 2 theme song joke again. Washington Square Ghost, the Scoleri brothers, a lot of the boss type monsters. Janosch in his nanny ghost form, and up here we've got the various ghost die. One touch I really liked as a subtle homage to the West End Games Ken Rolston designed tabletop game is that the dice in the board game 1 had the No Ghost logo, and these dice look like they have the No Ghost logo from Ghostbusters 2, which is really exciting, as well as a few other dice as well for various game mechanics. Looks like there's a layer 3 to these minis, so let us get that open. While I'm doing this, I want to keep you entertained with stories of my various adventures in ghostbusting. So I told you pretty robustly the experience I had as a Yeti tier backer and as my Yeti tier piece. But one thing that you might not be aware of is that I was actually an extra in the Ghostbusters 2016 film. And I'll be happy to tell you about that as soon as I go over this next set of pieces. So, looks like we've got a couple of various items. I'm not sure. It looks like there's some things that might be missing, which is a little concerning. I don't know what goes here or around these items. There seem to be pretty obvious divots. Maybe just comparing the layer that was on top, there could just be divots for the pieces. So I'm just going to try to just give you a sense of what I'm talking about. Down here, you see there's this big blank space you'd expect a piece to go to. But I'm going to try to line things back up, and I think what that does is, yeah, it looks like it's just to accommodate the layer 2 of the pieces. It's not necessarily indicative of anything missing. In here, it looks like we've got a few custom bases for our busters, and I'm not sure what this piece is. I feel ashamed because I feel like I should know. Like it's a doorway of some type, covered in mood slime, but I'm not sure what it's supposed to be. I'm sure there's some scenario that uses that. Apologies, I'm sure I will be asked to turn in my Ghostbusters credentials after this video. Alright, so that is the end of the box. Just to show you the empty cardboard. Ooh, ah, cardboardy. We're going to throw that all back in together as we begin story time. So, how the heck did I end up as an extra in the 2016 film? And before I talk about that, I want to mention that I've gone on and on about how some of these pieces have had warping and damage and how I should do an inspection of them. Just to keep things moving, I'm going to do that in my own time, and you guys will be able to catch that at a either a later date or at some point, or I will just let Cryptozoic know and maybe not post a video about it. Cool. So, bring this back in. This is actually a pretty good test to see how easy it is to repack this box, because this was a big issue with the board game 1 of Ghostbusters. I'm also going to, in a moment, to readjust the camera because my head is a little bit out of frame when I stand up at my full height. But it looks like there's no fuss, no muss. That is excellent. As Raymond Stans would say when he's blowing his slime blower, beautiful. All right, adjusting the camera, and then we're getting into part 2 of the box. The thing that is most appealing. And of course, I'm screwing up the entire camera angle. Oh God. Oh God. All right, cool. So, next item in the box I'm going to take out is the one that looks most appealing, which is the Slimer Sea Fright expansion pack. This was an optional add-on that you could get a playable Slimer, as well as a, you can see on the back of the box, a scenario and minis based off the real Ghostbusters episode Sea Fright, in which the Ghostbusters battle a pirate captain invading New York City. Cool. It looks like there's 2 variants of Slimer, but let's open the box and see actually what it is rather than admire the back of the box. So how the heck did I end up being an extra, that is much better, hi guys, in the Ghostbusters 2016 film? Well, I'm glad you asked, hypothetical listener. Essentially, I was working in Western Massachusetts at a company in Springfield called Hit Point Inc. They are a small casual games developer known primarily for their Facebook licensed games. Not licensed game, but Facebook and licensed games, I should clarify. They do a lot of Crayola Color Blast, AR type experiences. The games that I worked on for them were I'm crossing my wires yet again. Were Seaside Hideaway, Jane Austen Unbound, Relic Quest, I Am Fam, and 2 Disney projects, one of which released, one didn't. Marvel Run Jump Smash released. It was a port from a Korean developer to the US shores of an Endless Runner title starring the Avengers, and an unreleased Kingdom Hearts game, which, because there's not much else known publicly than the title, I can't really get into, but suffice it to say, it would have been cool. Unfortunately, well, I'll continue the story in a moment because you guys probably care more about the boxing than the crazy travails of Carl. So, cover the box. I'm taking off it now. And the first thing we see is a little bit of an instructional card and dedicated token. Looks like doubloons play some sort of role in the scenario, as do these caustic tiles. Just looking at this stag card, a Ghostbuster on the wheel of the space can... okay, so it's basically special rules for the map itself, which is a light version of a vehicle, which is kind of cool. Flip side of this tiles card, nothing too special there. Going to flip over the box, put that back in. Next thing you see when you first open it is tiles and minis. I'm trying to be careful because it looks like these minis are a little less secure in their housing than the other ones. Not a criticism so much, just an observation. Looks like we got some tiles here. Let us open them up and see what they look like. I believe it's the ship and a few street tiles as well. So, Hit Point Inc., great company to work for, but we were very much a for-hire studio with ambitions to do internally driven projects. They, Disney, around that point, canceled all of their externally developed contracts, and Microsoft soon followed suit, which were 2 people that we were working with. And as a result, we had to have a round of layoffs. I survived that round of layoffs, but it was unfortunate because we had grand ambitions to go independent, no longer be beholden to the whims of external contractors and the possibility of that money source being taken from us. But that would also mean that should this big bet fail, we would probably have to do another round of layoffs. Spoiler alert, big bet failed and we had to do another round of layoffs. But in that time I got a great opportunity to work as an associate producer on a couple of those game projects. And it was really a great time because I was at my busiest overseeing 5 simultaneous live ops projects, pausing the story so we can go over the map tiles. So, looks like we have here a bunch of cargo on a city street and some sort of a streak, maybe a cannonball blast or something. Flip side is hull of the ship, which is cool. Looks like there's a steering wheel here. Maybe that's the aforementioned steering wheel token or spot that they mentioned in the rules. Going on to the next one, we've got, I believe, a nautical museum from that episode. I haven't watched in a while, so apologies. Hopefully we'll get around to it in my Ghostbusters rewatch podcast I'm doing with my friends. And it looks like we've got some museum exhibits, some diver suit, some art, etc., etc. Just some very light flavoring. More tiles for the ship. Anchor, I think, probably has special rules to it. And just places you can navigate around. That seems kind of cool. Let's see, what is this one here? I gotta take a moment. Okay, it looks like there are a bunch of mannequins outside of what appears to be a gift shop on a city street. Possibly a boardwalk type setting like the Atlantic City of my youth, having grown up in New Jersey. And looks like there's, I believe, a dock or something similar, given the wooden placking along the sidewalk. Next we have what looks to be a grocery store with some food. I'm sure Slimer will love that. Some city streets, as well as a few other detritus, more possibly dock tiles, and a down statue of what I assume to be Poseidon. Going back, and we're back to tile number 1. Cool. Awesome. So that is the broad map tiles. It looks like just to give you a quick image, looks like we've got this on our next layer, which is character cards, and I imagine enemy cards as well. It's in a little bit of a package. Backside of the package. Let's open it up and see what's in there. Hi guys. See, now that I've adjusted my camera, I can't kneel in front of it easily without being out of frame, so apologies for that. You can't see my handsome face. Alright, so Slimer himself, we saw him earlier. His backside looks like he has some special rules pertaining to movement. Makes sense. He's a ghost. He has semi-corporeal, so he can probably move through walls, which is kind of neat. Let us see. Some scenario cards. The Lost Treasure is the first one. I'm not going to read all of these, but you can see, as with the earlier game, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 scenario cards. And looks like we've got enemy ghosts. We've got a Buccaneer skeleton ghost. What's really upsetting is that the image of the Buccaneer skeleton here is the X-Cop. Not sure if that's temporary art. Just looking at the rules real quick. This entity card replaces the entity card for X-Cop for all Sea Fright scenarios. Anything that references X-Cop will reference this entity instead. Okay, so it's using the X-Cop mini, but it is and art. That's kind of disappointing, to be perfectly honest. I get, like, obviously this is not a Buccaneer skeleton, but I get them wanting to save costs on potential pieces, but even so, it's a little underwhelming. On the other hand, looks like Skeleton Crew has its own art and mini. We can see it in the box here. We got Captain Jack Higgins from the aforementioned Sea Fright episode. And Captain's first mate, which is neat. And we're back to Slimer. back of the cards is just large piece of art and looks like flavor text as to who the monster is in particular. So we got the minis themselves, which you've seen a couple of times over here, and also looks like some base tokens for our playable Slimers. But we got some equipment cards as well. I don't know if I'll go through all of these, but let's see if there's anything special inside. I'm just gonna move this thing down while I'm up front on the camera. Guys, sorry, I'm dealing with a tripod. Inverted controls is throwing me off, but I'll adjust the camera once we're back in the box. So opening up the deck of equipment cards, we got a Tome of Magical Spells, literally called Magical Spells, Optimal Anti-Ghost Carrying Case, I'm glad it is optimal, Exorcism Juice, not sure which flavor Ecto Cooler or High C it might be, but you know, I'm sure we'll find out during the scenario. Proton Bazooka, seen in most recently the Ghostbusters 101 crossover. Event cards, as before, 1, 2, 3, 4 of those, and a key item called the Lost Treasure. Neat. And that is it. I'm going to take out one of these minis since they're handy, just to give you a close-up look. This is Slimer with, oddly enough, a slime blower. I guess he has issues making it project off of him rather than being in direct contact. And here is one of the skeleton crew members. I'm going to hold him up from the base as well so you can get a sense of that. Ooh, neat. Alright, cool. While I'm putting all this away, where was I with my story? Hit Point had a round of layoffs, unfortunately. And given the nature of the video games industry, it takes quite a long time to find work. Personally, I've found that it's been about a year or more, well, not or more, a year under, the better part of a year, I should say, maybe like 3 to 6 months to find work once you get between jobs, which is really unfortunate. The good news is that the work pays well. Bad news is in savings, you can't really spend a lot of your riches because you're busy planning wisely your finances. So, I was unfortunately laid off, going to adjust the camera further. We're getting a little low on battery, so we're going to probably do one more box, then call it quits. But, yeah, I was unfortunately laid off and looking for work. During that time, because I was living in Springfield, Massachusetts, about an hour away from Boston, I found out that they were casting extras for the Ghostbusters 2016 film, and the production name was Pancake. Maybe next time I do one of these videos, I will uncover that and show you the flyer I have, because that was something that was still awesome, or that happened. Just to give you a sense of what the box looks like with everything taken out. We got a good angle with this, everything's falling apart, but yeah, that's about it. Since this piece moved around, let us see what is in here. It says Killian, I'm excited, could be my Yeti piece. Let us crack it open. So I went to, I'm trying to remember the exact location, but it was, I believe, a casting location was a, for lack of a better term, auditorium-like setting, like either an arena or auditorium for a school in Boston. And I like how they added the fragile sticker to this guy. Hopefully I'm not cut anything too relevant with my knife, but we shall see in a moment. The line was huge, guys. Like, I think, say what you will about the film that resulted, people went into this thing with a lot of excitement, both in terms of local people looking for work and getting film credits for helping their acting career, and also just genuine Ghostbuster fans. I talked to a lot of Ghostbuster fans in line, and ultimately the process was wait in line for about an hour, and when I say the line was long, let's say, just hypothetically, that here is the starting point of the line. You would go to, you would be outside, and about here, which was about an hour later, would be the line to get inside. And then about this far to the end of the table, which you can't see because it's out of frame, just give you a little sense there, was the ultimate wait inside. in which you had a 5-minute chat with a casting director. You gave them their headshot, and literally it was just, hey, how are you? What's your name? Would you be available from these dates? Please give us your paperwork. During your wait in line, you had a bit of paperwork to fill out. Hey, are you eligible to work in the United States? What dates would you be available for? I literally put down every date that they listed because I was unemployed, and I would do anything to be a Ghostbuster, as mentioned with, as illustrated by the fact that I backed this Yeti thing, and dropped off my paperwork and went home to eagerly await a phone call. What happened next? We'll find out shortly. But box is open. Let us see what is inside. Cool. So, contents of the box is black foam. It is very well protected, probably for obvious reasons. I open it up, and oh baby, it is everyone's favorite Buster in foam. Carl Dan Killian III, heir to the Killian 4chan. You can see me here. If you would like to see the 3D model online, it is available on the Facebook page. And if you contact me via my YouTube page, if you found this, you should be able to request a copy from me personally. There's no trademark information at the bottom. That's not surprising. Most of the minis, I should say, for the board game have, how should I put this? Have trademark information, you know, just Cryptozoic, the date, and also not Columbia TriStars, possibly Ghost Core. I haven't read it in a while, but it feels like this thing is made out of a different type of plastic. Yeah, it's probably custom 3D printed, but the detail work on it is excellent. Unfortunately, my shoulders have no Ghost logo. If you can see, maybe a bit hard to tell. As I mentioned, I have my character using a modified dark matter generator pack. I don't know how good the details are. You can see the backing of the proton pack is a bit elongated compared to others, so that could be a good indicator. Obviously, you don't have the blue LED lights as you do in the video game. One thing I was worried about was the detailing on the hair. I was worried it looked too JRPG, too spiky. Looks pretty good, if I'm being honest. I think it catches my beautiful hair quite well, but I suppose we shall see once we play. And that is me in a nutshell. I really like the pose, I really like the Buster, and I'm looking forward to playing with him. The thing that does bug me just feeling this thing, it feels like not a lower quality plastic, but a much more rough textured plastic. The other pieces feel very smooth, whereas this, you can definitely, there's kind of a grainy, almost concrete type feeling when you rub your finger on any section of it, especially the smooth base. Doesn't feel good to handle, to be perfectly honest. Not that I'm complaining, I'm happy to be a Ghostbuster, and I'm sure I will be using it quite a lot. Kind of sad I only got one. Early on I thought I would be getting 5 and be able to send out copies to my friend, but at the very least I got the 3D file to send around and print out copies. But yeah, that is me in a nutshell. There is nothing else in the box. I'm just wrapping it back up in the protective foam. They give you a lot for the relatively small piece. Just give you a sense of the dimensions. And the box itself is empty. All it carried was the piece. I'm wondering where my character card could be. It could possibly be in another one of the boxes. I've yet to open any of it, but let's continue and see. So, we filled out the paperwork, gave him a headshot, which was a black and white photo I printed out. Funny side note. Actually, no. So I was about to say this was the photo that killed my printer, but that's not quite true. So, just to give you an updated sense of what the box is looking like, this is what it is currently with all the jostling around. I'm going to take one of the side boxes and see what happens to be inside. Looks like there's more tape, so we're going to need Mr. Knifey, Mr. Stabs, if you will. I was visiting my family in Rhode Island for a little bit of time while I was unemployed, and I got the call. And in true fashion, after they let me know that, hey, we'd like to cast you, are you available on X dates for being an extra, it was, one, very flattering, but also it was, they had ended the call with a trademark, "Who you gonna call?" And I, in of course, very nerd-type fashion, said, "Me, I hope." Yeah, they asked for me to show up on site, and I will tell you the story of the set going forward. So let's see what we got in this nondescript box. Lettering is FG31648. You know, that famous Ghostbusters number. Cool. So as I'm lifting this thing out, layer 1 is minis, and something just literally fell out. And behind it is a layer of additional tiles. Let's take a look at what these could be. Looks like some of these are the stretch goals. So we've got Killer Want, that one ghost from the IDW comics whose name escapes me, the orphanage running ghost. The one based off the Kenner toy line, which was a social stretch goal, as with this guy, whose name, of course, escapes me. We've got the Grundle as well, which, funny bit of trivia, was the only monster to appear in both the real Ghostbusters and Extreme Ghostbusters, with the exception of some cameos in the credits, such as Sam Hain. We've got the Extreme Ghostbusters. Yeah, you can definitely tell this is a smoother plastic, just feeling Roland's piece here. Comparatively. I always found it a little bit interesting that they made two versions of Kylie. I understand why, given sort of the comics notion of the Ghostbusters multiverse, but I'm wondering if there are separate rules. And of course we've got Where Chicken, which I believe appeared in the game primarily because it was a highly requested object from a fan. We've got the Royland's Guides to Secret Societies and Sex, which is a box for all your various game cards. Sounds like there's something in there, so let's crack it open and see before we move on to our tiles. Just a moment and we shall get to that. Showed up on set, which was in October, I believe. It was an interesting experience because we were hosted at the upstairs area of some hotel, I can't remember which, that was filming in the area. It was a night shoot. The scene itself, if you remember the 2016 film, there was a scene in which Abby pulls up to a location in a cab, and Dan Aykroyd is the one driving the cab. This was that scene, but a scene that was cut that was supplementary to it that I was in was the citizens running around in panic from some giant thing. Possibly Roland, possibly Rowan rather. Extreme Ghostbusters guy is not the bad guy from the film. And it was unfortunately cut, but we'll get into that a bit more and that experience after we go from this up. So, Royland's Guide. Actually, before I do that, it's kind of a nice bookend to that, and printing as if it had pages, which is really cool. I'm really happy about that. There's more equipment and event cards in here. Let's open these up. So I get to the set, and we were being hosted at a hotel in downtown Boston. I can't remember which one, unfortunately, off the top of my head. I'm sure I can look all that information up a little later if you're really curious. But line was much shorter. It was a large crowd scene, and there was a fair group of people, but the line to get in, especially since these were people who had been specifically requested to be there, was much shorter. We were all able to fit inside, which was nice. How should I describe next? The process was interesting. We waited in line while in the call that I received from the casting agency, they asked that we wear a certain type of wardrobe. In this case, sort of nice streetwear. I know that having spoken to another person on the set, they had also requested on previous days of shooting to wear punk rock type gear for the heavy metal concert scene you see in the film, which was not cut. A little bit bitter. Joking aside, more equipment cards, no big differences. This is a tome for the Incantatoribus. Actually, that's really cool. We've got Inudilias and looks like maybe a little sketch of Sarah from the Cryptozoic community team. Yeah, but a few more equipment cards, Raid's Cult Bookshop Catalog, Proton Pack Mark II, which looks like the Rookie's Custom Pack, which is really nice. A box of yellow snack cakes, which I know is an homage to certain things, among others. I'm not going to go over each of these. Actually, just one more, if you'll bear with me. Water Zapper. This was an awesome toy from back in the day. Sort of a pump action squirt gun prior to Super Soakers being a big thing. It was really fun to play with. So, thank you for indulging me. A few more event cards, only 2 this time. And that looks to be it. We've got more equipment cards layered, including Popular Fungus with our favorite Buster Egon on the cover. A few more equipment cards, another event card, and that appears to be it. A little curious that it's a bit out of order, but that is interesting. I'm going to put those back in the box and move on to layer 2, which is our ghost cards. I'm going to open this up and see what's inside. I'm sure we've got character cards for Roland and the others as well, the other Extreme Busters. But we shall see in a moment. Interesting that this layer does not fit in the box. I wonder why that is. I think it's going to be another scenario where I'm going to have to use the big box for things. Grabber Ghost was the name of one of the ghosts I can remember before. Apologies. Front and back. Standard monster card. Custom rules and flavor text, as you can see. We've got Garrett. Looks like he has some custom movement rules, probably due to his wheelchair. It's kind of cool. Roland. I'm not going to lie, guys. I really don't like the promo art for the Extreme Busters. I think it's kind of very undetailed and off-model. I think they got captured Garrett fairly well, but Roland feels very smoothed over Winston, if that makes any sense. You can see it in Eduardo as well. There's very little detail. When I think of his character, he's a lot of sort of smile lines, whereas in this art he does not. I wonder if this is by Dan Schoening or not. And Kylie is another character off model. More scenario cards. 1, 2, 3, 4 for Kilowatt. We've got the Grundle, which is class 4. Bug-Eye, which is the Kenner toy I can't remember. Ellen Gold was the orphanage runner. Killer Watt of Court, voiced by the same voice as Trevor Avery Brooks, I want to say, but I could be wrong. We're Chicken, and we're back to Grabber Ghost. And that was the contents of the Roylance Guide. Cool. And now we've got these tiles while I'm putting those away. Got to the film set, and I think because of film union rules, a lot of the experience was hurry up and wait. Essentially, we were conveniently placed out of sight, out of mind for the hotel on the top floor, which was under renovation. So a lot of like exposed beams and industrial lighting. Like it wasn't really a film set or even a section of the hotel that was open to the public. It was a lot of folding tables and folding chairs, a makeshift area to change into costume if you need to borrow a costume, or if your costume could be supplemented or wasn't up to snuff from what you brought. Also a section to do makeup. Trying to think of the layout. It was literally just a big rectangle with a divider in the middle with a couple of bathrooms attached. A lot of exposed work, concrete work, I should say. Folding tables, which made its own sort of cornered off section for food, which was only available for those who were part of the, I believe, SAG actor unit, Screen Actor Guild Union. Where else was there? There was on the far wall, so just to give you a sense of the rectangle, I'm going to use this. So let's say this far wall was the north side of the building. This would be, section 1 would be makeup. Section 2 would be extra costumes. Right behind it was this wall divider, and jutting out of that was makeshift dressing rooms that they hung up curtains for people to change in. And over here was pretty much check-in. Essentially, you were required to do a bit of paperwork, kind of similar to the stuff that you did before, but because this was my first time, I need a little bit of guidance to do it. So they, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. Yeah, just general questions on that paperwork, such as, were you a member of the Screen Actors Guild? What are the hours that you worked, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of people, I guess, who are in the know to like submit that first thing rather than submit it at the end of the night rather than do it first thing. I made the mistake of doing it first things, which had its own consequences, which we'll touch on a bit. But just to finish up the layout real quick. Middle divider, over here, let's say, on this, my right-hand side would be the snack area, which took up about a third of the space. Over here was, and we were left sort of to just, those of us who didn't get snacks were left to mingle around in sort of the empty spaces, like behind here and also in front of the dressing room. And then over here was the wall and bathrooms, and then elevators over here. And then we just sort of killed time as we waited to be called on set. We'll continue the story in a moment, but let's go over what the heck these tiles are. A little hard to tell, to be perfectly honest. Looks like a little bit of a mansion. I'm not sure if this is an homage to something. Mansion or some sort of a dining room, kitchen area. You can see sort of cooking utensils over here, a lot of set dining spaces over here, a lot of cots over here. I'm not sure what that represents. Oh, this could be Ellen Gould's orphanage. Just looking at the sort of cribs right here, there's a lot of toys. Yeah, if I had to wager a guess, that's probably what these tiles are. As for the back, I'm taking a look just to get a sense of what these could be. You've already got a good look at it. Oh, okay, I know what this is. These are a lot of power dynamos, industrial type tiles. Basically, this is a scene to allow you to role play the scenario from the Killer Watt episode, which is really cool. A lot of sort of sparks coming off these tiles, which is cool. I don't know if that has some gameplay significance or not, but that would be kind of neat. A little dark for my taste, to be perfectly honest. Kind of hard to distinguish what the details on each of the individual tiles versus just, hey, it's gunmetal gray, industrial type equipment. Yeah. So that is that in a nutshell. So I'm going to put all that away as I continue the story. So I get on set, and it is, as I mentioned, a lot of hurry up and wait. They essentially ask for this paperwork, and I foolishly did not wait till the end of the night and instead did it first thing, thinking that that's what needed to be done. As a result, even though I was one of the first ones on set on site, I was one of the last ones called to set because I did not check in because I thought I needed the paperwork to get there. So what this resulted in was the scene itself was meant to be a crowd shot of people running down a street away from something. So the way they set this up, as I continue to write the rest of these things in, one thing I should probably note as I'm trying to push this in, getting resistance trying to push in the box down, there's nothing really blocking it, which is unfortunate. I think the tiles have folded. That's going to make things difficult for storage in the future, which is unfortunate. But seeing that and correcting it, was able to get it easily enough. Move on to the next section. Probably another one of those pieces. Actually, battery's dying. We're going to move on to a part 4. Thank you for watching. And I apologize for the gas. And until next time, I'm ready to believe you. We'll continue the story next time. Thanks, guys.